Hello, everyone. Today, I want to share an incredible story with you, a story about how learning English helped me reach my dream, follow my passion, and find success. If you have big dreams to become a doctor, an engineer, a lawyer, a business person, or anything amazing, then English is absolutely essential. There's no doubt about it. English is spoken by over 1.5 billion people around the world. It's the language of travel, business, science, and the internet. Without English, you could miss out on major opportunities, better jobs, international friendships, or even enjoying movies and books in their original language. But don't worry, it's never too late to start. You can begin learning today and become part of this global community. If I could do it, so can you. My name is Sofia, and I'm from Brazil. I was born in a small town. My family wasn't rich, but we had enough. We lived a modest life, no luxuries, but lots of love. My father was a taxi driver, and my mother worked as a school teacher. They always reminded me that education is the key to success. Since I was a little girl, I had one dream: to become a doctor. I still remember the moment that changed everything for me. I was 10 years old. My little brother was very sick and had a high fever. We were terrified. My parents were crying in the hospital. Then a doctor walked in. He was calm, confident, and kind. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. I'll take care of him." I watched him work. He examined my brother, gave him medicine, and explained everything with such care and knowledge. Just a few hours later, my brother's fever was gone. He was safe. That moment lit a fire inside me. I thought, one day I want to be like him. I want to save lives. But as I got older, I discovered a big challenge. To become a doctor, you need to know English. Every medical book, every research paper, it's all in English. Even in Brazil, doctors need English to study, communicate, and work. And my English? It was terrible. I went to a public school where English was barely taught. I only knew simple words like hello and how are you? When I saw a full sentence, I couldn't understand it. I remember one day in school, the teacher asked me to read a sentence out loud. I looked at the page. The words were just dancing. I couldn't read them. I couldn't understand. I whispered, "I don't know, miss." The class laughed. That day I went home, sat alone in my room and thought, how can I become a doctor if I can't even read a sentence in English? I felt lost. Then one evening my father came home and saw me sad. He sat beside me and asked, "What's wrong, Sophia?" I told him everything. "Papa, I want to be a doctor, but my English is bad. I can't study medicine without it." He was quiet for a while, then said something that changed my life. "If English is the problem, then learn English. Go somewhere where you'll be surrounded by it every day." I was shocked. "But Papa, we don't have the money." He smiled and said, "We may not have much, but we have enough. Your dreams are worth it." That night, my parents and I talked about the best place to learn English. We chose Canada. Why Canada? Everyone speaks English. I would be forced to practice every day. It has one of the best education systems in the world. It's multicultural. People are kind and welcoming to international students. Compared to the USA or UK, it was more affordable. It wasn't easy. We were a middle-class family. My parents had some savings, but not a lot. They made a huge sacrifice. They spent nearly everything to pay for my flight, my English school, and my first few months in Canada. Before I left, my mother held my hand and said, "Sophia, we're giving you everything we have. Promise me you won't give up." With tears in my eyes, I hugged her and said, "I promise, Mama." And so, with one suitcase, a little bit of money, and a huge dream, I flew to Canada. The moment I landed in Toronto, I felt like a stranger. Everything was different. The weather was freezing, so different from the warmth of Brazil. My hands were ice. The food was unfamiliar. I missed my mom's homemade rice and beans. The people were kind, but They spoke so fast. That was just the beginning of my journey. The problem: English. When I arrived at the airport in Canada, I immediately ran into trouble. A man approached me and asked, "Hey, do you need a taxi?" I froze. I didn't understand what he said. I panicked, just smiled nervously and said, "Yes." Then he asked, "Where to?" Again, I had no idea what he was saying. My brain just stopped working. Finally, I handed him my phone with the address on it. That night, sitting alone in my tiny rented room, I cried. "What am I doing here?" I thought. "I can't understand anyone. How am I supposed to survive?" For the first time in my life, I felt completely alone. The next morning, I went to my English language school. The teacher greeted us with a big smile and said, "Welcome, everyone. Let's introduce ourselves." When it was my turn, I stood up. My hands were shaking. I said, "My name's Sophia. I from Brazil." I wanted to say more, but my mind went completely blank. The words just wouldn't come out. The teacher gave me a kind smile, but I noticed a few students quietly laughing. I sat down, embarrassed. I felt so humiliated. That night I made a powerful decision. No matter how hard it gets, no matter how many mistakes I make, I will learn English. I made a plan. I promised myself I would do everything I could to become fluent. And that's when my real English learning journey began. My first weeks in Canada, I still remember how strange everything felt. It was like stepping into a whole new world, exciting but also terrifying. In Brazil, I understood everything. But in Canada, I felt like a baby just learning how to speak. Before I tell you how I improved, let me share some of the things that surprised me most in Canada. No school uniforms. In Brazil, we always wore uniforms. In Canada, students wore whatever they wanted. Some even showed up in pajamas, and no one cared. No hugging or kissing. In Brazil, we greet people with hugs and kisses. In Canada, people like personal space. If you hug someone without asking, it can feel uncomfortable for them. Crazy weather. One minute it's sunny. The next it's raining or snowing. I couldn't believe how fast it changed. Self-checkout. At the supermarket, there were no cashiers. People scanned and paid for their groceries themselves, saying sorry all the time. Canadians apologize for everything. Even if you step on their foot, they'll say sorry. I found that so funny. Huge food portions. I once ordered a small meal, and it looked like enough food for 3 people. But the biggest shock was the English itself. People spoke so quickly and they used so much slang. In school, I learned proper English. But in real life, people said things like, "Want to grab a coffee?" instead of, "Do you want to get a coffee?" I'm down for that, meaning I agree. That's lit, meaning that's amazing. I felt like I hadn't studied English at all. The struggle to speak. On the second day of class, we had a simple writing task. I was excited. I thought, yes, I can do this. But when the teacher returned my paper, it was covered in red marks. She said, "Sophia, your ideas are good, but your sentence structure needs work. You're thinking in Portuguese and translating into English. That's why it sounds strange." I felt frustrated. Speaking was even harder. The teacher asked me a question. I knew the answer in my head, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out. I wanted to cry. Will I ever speak English fluently? But I refused to give up. I knew that if I didn't improve, my dream of becoming a doctor would disappear. So I came up with a strategy. My English learning plan A, the headphone trick, talking to myself in public. One of my biggest challenges was speaking. I was shy and afraid of making mistakes. So I came up with a clever trick. I put on headphones and walked around the city, pretending to be on a phone call. But I wasn't really talking to anyone. I was talking to myself. I described everything I saw. I'm walking down the street. The sky is blue. That woman is wearing a red coat. Now I'm entering a cafe. I'll order a coffee. It helped me practice speaking and thinking in English without fear. B. The 3 new words rule every day. I learned 3 new words, and I made sure to use them in a sentence. Little by little, my vocabulary grew. C. No more subtitles. At first, I watched English movies with subtitles, but I realized I was reading, not listening. So I turned off the subtitles. It was hard at first, but I forced myself to listen and understand. Over time, I started catching more and more words and expressions. My first real conversation. One day, I walked into a coffee shop and told myself, "Today I will talk to someone in English, no matter what." I walked up to the counter. The barista smiled and said, "Hey, what can I get you today?" My heart was beating so fast. "Don't panic, Sophia. You've got this." I took a deep breath and said, "I'd like a cappuccino, please." The barista smiled and asked, "Would you like almond milk or regular milk?" This time I understood her perfectly. "Regular milk, please," I replied confidently. She handed me my coffee and said, "Here you go. Have a great day." And I said, "You too." It was such a small conversation, but to me it felt like I had just won an Olympic gold medal. That day I learned something important. English isn't about being perfect. It's about being confident. Learning English was one thing. Surviving in Canada was another. Canada is an amazing country, but it's expensive. Here's what I spent each month. Rent for a small room. $800. I shared an apartment with a roommate to save money. Groceries. $250. I cooked at home every day. Transportation. $120. A monthly bus pass in Toronto. Phone bill. $50. English classes. $500 per month. To cover my costs, I worked part-time at a small cafe. My routine? Wake up at 6 a.m., go to school, work at the cafe, come home exhausted, and study English late at night. I missed my family. I missed my home. But every time I felt like quitting, I reminded myself of my parents' sacrifice. They gave me everything they had, so failure was not an option. The turning point, thinking in English. In the beginning, my brain translated everything. Here's what would happen. I'd hear a sentence in English. I'd translate it into Portuguese in my head. I'd think of an answer in Portuguese, then translate it back into English before speaking. It was exhausting. But after 4 months of constant English exposure, something amazing happened. One day at the grocery store, the cashier asked, "Do you need a bag?" Without even thinking, I replied, "No, I have one." "Thanks." For the first time, I wasn't translating. I was thinking in English. If you're struggling with English, here's my advice. Speak every day, even if you're alone. Use the headphone trick I used. Stop translating in your head. Learn to think directly in English. Talk to native speakers, even if it's scary at first. Surround yourself with English. Change your phone, music, and movies to English. Don't fear mistakes. Every mistake is a step forward. And most importantly, never give up. I'll never forget the moment when everything changed, the day I realized, wow, I can actually speak English. But before I tell you that story, let me take you deeper into my life in Canada, the struggles, the weird moments, and how I finally started speaking English like a native. Facing my biggest fear. Native speakers. I had been in Canada for 6 months. My English had improved a lot. I could understand people better. I could order food without anxiety. I could talk to classmates. But I still had one big fear, talking to native English speakers. Why? They spoke so fast, used tons of slang, and I always felt dumb when I didn't understand. So I avoided conversations. If someone asked me something, I just smiled and said, "Yes," or haha, yeah, even if I had no idea what they were saying. But deep down, I knew if I wanted to be fluent, I had to face this fear, the moment that changed everything. One morning, I made a bold decision. I walked into my favorite coffee shop and told myself, Sophia, today you are going to have a real conversation with a native speaker. No running away. I stood in line, heart racing. Then a girl next to me smiled and said, "This line is so long, right?" This was it, my moment. I took a deep breath and replied, "Yeah, it's really long." She continued, "I come here every morning." "It's always like this." My brain started to panic. What do I say? But instead of overthinking, I simply said, "Oh, really? I just moved here, so I didn't know." She smiled and asked, "Oh, cool. Where are you from?" And just like that, we had a real conversation. For the first time ever, I wasn't translating. I wasn't scared. I was just talking. The confidence shift. That moment changed everything for me. I finally believed, I can do this. That one conversation gave me confidence, and confidence was the missing piece. Now that I was more confident, I wanted to take my English to the next level. Not just speak English, but sound like a native speaker. The secret, shadowing. So I started something that felt a little crazy, the shadowing method. Here's what I did. Every time I watched a TV show or a movie, I paused and repeated what the actors said exactly the same way. For example, if I heard, "Oh my God, that's insane," I would pause and copy it. "Oh my God, that's insane." I mimicked their tone, speed, rhythm, and emotion. At first, it felt weird, but I did it for hours every day. And after a month, something amazing happened. My pronunciation improved so much, and I started doing something that helped me grow even faster. I kept a notebook of every English mistake I made. Every time I got something wrong, I wrote it down and corrected it. For example, I agree with you. By reviewing my mistakes daily, I stopped making them again. It was one of the hardest parts of my journey, but I pushed myself further. I knew that if I really wanted to speak fluent English, I had to connect with Canadians. So I made myself step out of my comfort zone. Here's exactly what I did. I joined local events. I attended free meetups for international students and language learners. I used conversation exchange apps. I found Canadians who wanted to learn Portuguese. We helped each other through language exchanges. I talked to my co-workers. I stopped being shy and started chatting with them during breaks. And you know what? The more I spoke to real Canadians, the more natural my English became. But even as my English improved, life was still tough. I was always tired. Balancing school, part-time work, and cooking all my meals by myself was exhausting. I missed my family deeply. I couldn't afford a plane ticket home. Flights were too expensive. I was constantly struggling with money. Even after 6 months, I still felt broke. One day, I checked my bank account. I had just $5 left. I sat in my tiny room and cried. Why is this so hard? Am I making a mistake? Should I just give up and go back home? But then I remembered why I came here. I didn't travel across the world just to give up now. So I wiped my tears and said to myself, no, I'm going to make this work. And I did. Picture this. Imagine waking up every morning in a cozy apartment, looking out over the city skyline, sipping your coffee and thinking, I made it. That's my life now. But 5 years ago, I was a broke student, struggling with English, feeling lost and alone in a foreign country. The IELTS challenge. To get into medical school, I had to pass the IELTS exam, and it was terrifying. The reading section was filled with long, complicated texts. The speaking test made me feel like I was being judged. The writing section was a nightmare, but I didn't let fear stop me. I studied every single day. I practiced writing essays. I recorded myself speaking. I read advanced medical articles in English. On the day of the exam, I was shaking, but I reminded myself, Sophia, you didn't come this far to fail. You're ready. I took a deep breath and gave it everything I had. A week later, I received my results. I passed. I held the paper in my hands, crying. I had done it. And in that moment, I realized, nothing can stop me now. Medical school, a new mountain to climb. With my IELTS score, I was accepted into one of the top medical universities in Canada. But the real challenge had just begun. The textbooks were in advanced English. Professors spoke using complex medical terminology. I had to write perfect reports and give formal presentations. It was 10 times harder than anything I'd ever done before. But I remembered something powerful. If I can learn English, I can do anything. So I kept pushing. I recorded every lecture and listened again at night. I made flashcards for difficult medical terms. I joined study groups and practiced explaining everything in English. I worked hard, every single day. And eventually, I graduated. I walked across the stage, took my diploma, looked up at the sky and whispered, "This is for you, Mom and Dad." I made it. My first job as a doctor. After graduation, I got my first job at a major hospital in Toronto. My first month salary, $88,000. When I saw my bank account, I froze. I remembered the days when I had to choose between buying food or paying rent. Now I could afford anything I wanted. But you know what? The money wasn't the best part. The best part was saving lives. One day, a little girl came into the hospital. She was sick, scared, and crying. I held her hand gently and said, "Don't worry, sweetheart. I'll take care of you." Her mother looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Thank you, doctor." In that moment, I felt something I had never felt before. I wasn't just a language learner anymore. I wasn't just a student. I was a doctor, and I had earned every bit of it. Final words. Change yourself for you. Let me tell you something important. I know people say just accept yourself the way you are, but I disagree. Never accept being weak. Never accept being average. You must grow, not for society, not for your friends, not even for your family. Do it for you, because here's the truth. No one is coming to save you. Not your parents, not your teachers, not your boyfriend or girlfriend. Only you can change your life. And if I can do it, so can you. I could have made 1,000 excuses. English is too hard. I don't have enough money. I'm not smart enough. But I didn't. Instead, I looked at myself in the mirror and said, "Sophia, stop making excuses. It's time to take action." And that's exactly what I did. If you're still here reading this, it means you want more out of life. So let me tell you something real. Learn English like your future depends on it, because it does. If you want a successful career, if you want more opportunities, you need English. So stop putting it off. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Get up. Open a book. Watch English videos. Do the work. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Talk to strangers. Make mistakes. Embarrass yourself if you have to. That's how you grow. That's how you build confidence. Today, I live in a beautiful apartment in downtown Toronto. I wake up every morning feeling proud of how far I've come. I drive the car I once dreamed of. I travel to different countries. I support my parents financially. And most importantly, I love the life I've built. But remember, I wasn't born lucky. No one handed this life to me. I created it. And you can too. Right now, you have two choices. Close this page and do nothing. Stay the same. Keep making excuses. Keep dreaming, but never acting. Start working on yourself today. Learn English every day. Improve yourself. Change your life, step by step. The choice is yours. If you're ready to become the best version of yourself, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and let's begin your journey together. Because when you commit to growth, when you finally become the person you know you're meant to be, it feels like the whole world opens up to you. Now go, change your life,